can stay. Okay. Luke Skywalker is heroic and brave. Han Solo brings adventure and rugged charm. Princess Leia is strong and courageous. Chewie, or Chewbacca, is loyal. And R2-D2 has a surprising humor for a robot that can only beep. But I think my favorite character in the original Star Wars universe is C-3PO, human-cyborg relations. C-3PO plays the role of universal translator. Speaking over 6 million forms of communication, he translates the universe for our heroes. From alien gangsters to robot guards. But a walking translator would be a rather boring character, so he gets to be the comic relief as well. C-3PO often complains about traveling through space, even though that's what the movie is about. He calculates risks of various dangerous adventures to the annoyance of the rest of the team, and he helplessly gets captured at least once per movie. Given his paranoid and neurotic nature, one might suggest that C-3PO's character is ever so slightly Jewish. He is a walking oy vey. C-3PO is a robot, or more accurate to the story, a droid. The term droid is short for android, a combination of two Greek terms, andro, meaning human, and oid, meaning similar to. An android is something similar to a human. And C-3PO lives up to his classification as a droid. He is shaped like a person, arms, legs, a head with two eyes, triangle where a nose might be, and a square mouth. He walks and talks and interacts with other humans in a very human way. But the makers of the movies Star Wars are very intentional in showing us that he is, in fact, a robot. His body is made entirely of shiny golden metal with wires visible between the joints. His eyes are light bulbs that turn off when he is powered down. His mouth doesn't move when he speaks. And in one movie, he is ripped apart into a dozen pieces and then put back together again fully functional. There is no way that we, the watchers of Star Wars, could ever confuse C-3PO, a marvelous invention of artificial intelligence, with a human. Unlike C-3PO, much of the portrayal of artificial intelligence in Hollywood today blurs the lines between technology that is human-like and technology that is mistaken as human. Blade Runner, Ex Machina, Her, iRobot, Terminator, all ask the question, what happens when AI and humans are less obviously separated? And these movies are made because Hollywood, just like the rest of us, look at artificial intelligence today and find themselves in a state of fear and amazement. In Hebrew, we call that yirah. It is the same yirah that the Israelites feel when they finally see Moses coming down from Mount Sinai. When he comes down, he glows with a radiant, holy, divine light. He is similar to human, but also something else. And the Torah says that the Israelites, and even his brother Aaron, stood in yirah, fear and amazement. I have felt that same yirah interacting with artificial intelligence through its newest public deployment, ChatGPT. In March, I gave a sermon about Purim, written almost entirely by the AI language generation model. And it was good. frighteningly good. And I'm not the only clergy who has done this. I have found dozens of examples online of people using AI to write a sermon, then delivering it to their congregation. Some of my colleagues did that this year for the high holidays. I already did it once, so I didn't do it again. Because even though the concept of artificial intelligence has been around for decades, the personal encounter with AI in the last year has gone beyond anything any of us could have imagined. The Jerusalem Post recently named the top 50 most influential Jews in the world, something they do every year. Last year, 2022, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky took the spot. In 2021, it was Yair Lapid, then the Prime Minister of Israel. This year, the Post said that the most influential Jew in the world is Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI. This Midwestern Jew in his 30s runs the company that created ChatGPT, which in the last year went from 1 million visits a month to 100 million a month to 1.8 billion. 1.8 billion visits a month. That is as many as Netflix. Raise your hand if at some point in this last year you tried out ChatGPT. And raise your hand if in that encounter you tried to get ChatGPT to do something you thought it wouldn't be able to, or couldn't, or shouldn't. Me too. How many of you have not, but think you might now? That feeling of yirah, fear and amazement, is present among us. Fear is what leads us to test the boundaries. An article on CNN just a few weeks ago interviewed pastors and rabbis about this phenomenon of AI-written sermons. The question being asked was, are rabbis and pastors at risk of being replaced? If AI can create moving messages about passages of holy text, why hire a professional? The response was expected. There is an art to writing a sermon, one pastor said. AI might be able to cobble together meaningful words, but it lacks soul. It cannot imagine new connections and possibilities. When I gave my AI-written sermon in March, a few of you noted to me afterwards that you could tell something was off. It wasn't really my voice, some of you said, and you were right. So perhaps the assertion that AI lacks the soul of a human writer is correct. But let's look at this realistically. Publicly generated AI writing has been around for less than a year. It's just a matter of time before it catches up. This is part of why we are seeing historic protests of writers and actors in Hollywood. It is only a matter of time before AI creations and human creations are indistinguishable. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. It has been deployed in almost every sector of human activity. It is used in healthcare, assisting in medical imaging, drug discovery, disease diagnosis, and treatment. It is in agriculture, helping improve crop yields based on predictable weather patterns and soil conditions. We find it in education, manufacturing, finance, energy, space exploration, and so much more. AI exists to enhance our lives. Even religion is affected by AI, and not just to write sermons. There's a program being used right now that can scan the thousands of fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which exists in museums and libraries across the world, and piece them back together. Can you imagine what we could learn from these pages restored. AI will bring back parts of our lost history. But are the benefits worth the risk? When it comes to AI, we are playing with fire. Various iterations of AI projects have gone off the rails. In 2016, an AI chatbot was introduced to Twitter, designed to take in millions of tweets, then create its own tweets based on what it's learned. Within 16 hours, the chatbot was a racist, anti-Semitic homophobe and was shut down. AI used in the judicial system was found to have a racial bias, profiling Black Americans more negatively than their equally criminal white counterparts. Often, scientists have observed their own AI projects and been unable to understand or explain how it learned something they didn't design it to figure out. AI exists in a black box, a hard drive, where processes happen so fast they are impossible to track. And this is just the beginning, because artificial intelligence is already on its way out. What these teams of scientists are truly working towards is AGI, artificial general intelligence, an AI that processes at a human-level intelligence or greater. AGI would surpass the printing press as the most important invention in human history. AGI could give us a way to end disease, discover the means to travel through space as a species, and end global warming. But with the greatest opportunity comes the greatest dangers. The Hollywood story of extinction through AI is not a far cry from reality, as described by Sam Altman. He told an audience in Seoul, South Korea, mitigating the extinction risk from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. The CEO of OpenAI, warning us that extinction-level events are possible with AI. Hearing this, many of us might say we should stop, because we could. We could just decide right now, as a society, we should stop. The risks outweigh the benefits, but we won't. It's as if we're being drawn by an invisible hand, begging us to reach the limits of human ingenuity. But why? Why are we so fascinated by a non-human source of human-level intelligence? I believe that answer has theological implications. For more than 5,000 years, humans have shared a belief that there is some entity out there with the ultimate intelligence. We've called this entity different names: God, Allah, Athena, Di, Brahman, Yud-He, Vav-He. And one of humankind's greatest pursuits has been to try to understand that intelligence. Some people consider themselves close enough to say that they can connect or communicate with this divinity. We call some of them prophets and the rest of them insane. And in almost every tradition, human interaction with that divine source of intelligence creates the feeling of yirah, fear and awe. That same feeling we have when we interact with artificial intelligence. Perhaps the pursuit of AI is, whether consciously or subconsciously, a quest to discover God. In biblical times, they built a tower to reach heaven. Today, we build computer towers, but the goal is the same: to try to get a glimpse at the all-knowing being. When God created Adam and Eve and put them in the Garden of Eden, they had everything they could ever ask for: unlimited food and water, safety, comfort. They had one rule: do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, the original artificial intelligence. And could they resist temptation? In their idyllic lives where they wanted for nothing, needed no technology to improve their lives, could they resist wisdom? No. And I know what some of you are thinking, but Rabbi, the serpent convinced Eve to do it. And to that I would say, no, you're remembering the story wrong. When Eve said to the serpent, God told us not to touch or eat the tree lest we die, all the serpent said was, you will not die, but your eyes will be opened and you will know good and evil. And Eve looked at the tree and saw it was good to eat. The tree was pleasing to the eyes. V'nechmad ha'etz lehaskil. And the tree was desirable as a source of wisdom. And then she ate it, after she saw it would bring her wisdom. Before she knew right from wrong, she had a desire for knowledge. And after eating the fruit, God calls for Adam in the garden, and Adam hides. When asked why, he said that he felt yirah, fear and awe of God. Our dilemma today is as old as the oldest story of Torah, and it is driven by the most basic, fundamental trait that makes us human. We desire knowledge. Yom Kippur is a day where we are supposed to examine that which makes us most human. We think about our mortality, who will live, who will die in the coming year. We beg forgiveness for the wrongs we have committed and forgive those who have hurt us. We accept that we are not perfect. These are the things that distinguish us from artificial intelligence: our emotions, our ability to accept imperfection. Rabbi Hillel wrote in Pirkei Avot, in a place where there is no humanity, strive to be human. This is how we safely eat from the tree of knowledge, reminding ourselves how amazing being human is. Eating the fruit of the tree had consequences for Adam and Eve. They were kicked out of the perfection of the Garden of Eden and forced to contend with real life, where there is good and evil, life and death. They were introduced to pain and suffering and having children and working the land. Every endeavor that today we would call part of the human experience. Unlocking artificial general intelligence will have consequences that redefine what it means to be human. Are we willing to accept them? We read in the Torah this morning that God has placed before us life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, we are commanded, choose life, that you and your children may live. How? By following the Torah, God's computer code for a good life. In the Talmud, it relates that when God set out to give the Torah to humans, the angels were not happy. You would consider giving Torah to a being of flesh and blood, they ask? The last time people took heavenly wisdom, they proved they couldn't be trusted. No, the Torah belongs in heaven, said the angels. So God called Moses forward. Tell them why humans should receive Torah, God commands. Moses is afraid to speak at first, standing before the holy angels of God's court. But he summons the courage and begins. Were you angels there with us in Egypt, where we suffered? Did you dwell amongst the nations that worshipped idols but remained true? Do you work where you require rest? Do you have parents to honor? Is jealousy found among you? Who else but those who contend with these human struggles should have the Torah? And immediately the angels agreed, and God gave the Torah to Moses. Human beings will not stop our search for greater intelligence. That yearning runs too deep. So as we do, we must simultaneously continue wrestling with what it means to be human. After all, being human is good enough for God. Shna Tova.